Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Guys, I'm excited to be back. We had a little off time last week. In case you guys didn't notice, we didn't have an episode, but we are back full force this week with a fantastic guest. But first, I got to let you know we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, at 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans. Guys, we also got some really interesting news I got to drop on you. Over at the experiencersupport.org, we've got a brand new article by our boy Ryan Stacy announcing a cool event coming up. It's, let's see, what do we got here? It is called the Extraterrestrial Diplomacy and First Contact Conference of 2024. You can check it out over the Experiencer Support Network, findout.org, experiencersupport.org, get more information there. He's covered a lot of cool things. They're going to have some very cool guest speakers show up to this, so you definitely want to check it out. It's on experiencersupport.org. Guys, go check that out as soon as we're done here. You don't want to miss this event. It's going to be super cool. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed some interesting UAP news happening in the world. Last week, this actually went down, I believe. But it seems like the Pentagon has finally acknowledged the UAPs that were flying around over the Langley Air Force Base. Yeah, they held a conference. They were grilled. They were asked about it. Now, of course, you know, they didn't say anything, but they acknowledged it finally. They had no idea why you didn't shoot them down. I mean, you know, they're just flying over an Air Force base, but why would we shoot them down? No, they're not ours. We don't know them. But, you know, why would we not shoot them down? Kind of weird. But you can definitely check that out if you just YouTube, Google search, U.S. Air Force Base, Langley Air Force Base, UAPs. You can check that conference out where you can actually see the reporters really grilled them. So I thought that was pretty dope, really. Hopefully we're getting close to disclosure. We don't know. But let's hope. But anyways, let's get on with tonight's guest. And she's a very interesting individual, by the way. She is a certified shamanic energy healer. She's the host of an award-winning Dare to Dream podcast for 17 years. And for any podcaster, that's impressive. That is super impressive. Way to go, Debbie. Debbie dwells into the realms of extraterrestrials, channeling UFOs, and shamanism. Guys, let's get a big, warm welcome for tonight's guest, Debbi Dachinger.
Yay.
Okay, I did mess up the last name. I got it correct, right?
Dachinger, yes.
Dachinger. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Well, I tell you what, Debbie, if you don't mind, do you care to let the viewers and the listeners know a little more about you?
Sure, absolutely. I am an aggregator, which means I'm a collector, a journalist of information, and specifically the very things you mentioned, Danny, which is UFOs, channeling, extraterrestrials, and definitely shamanism. I have had a really interesting journey around these subjects. I've been spiritual my whole life. However, I had a lot of judgments and eye rolls about several subjects, extraterrestrials, UFOs amongst them. Also past life regressions. I believed in them, but it was like, oh, you know, I just didn't have good experiences around things like that. So never say never, because the universe was going to prove something else to me. So I had very profound experiences and openings that led me down the path of all of this. So yes, for 17 years, I started out having a radio show called Dare to Dream, and it was a terrestrial radio show. And that weird word came around while I was on radio called podcasting, and people were making fun of it and saying, "Oh, that's so weird. It'll never last." And I
It'll
was like,
never make it.
yes, it was like everything else that was going digital at the time. And I just was really curious. And I decided to put my hat in both rings, thank God, because now it's a very viable part of what I do in the world. And as part of my job, specifically on podcasting, I have privy to some extraordinary people who channel extraterrestrials, people you'd know around the world. And that's really helped me on my journey. And I am certified as a shamanic healer, as a Munay Rites practitioner. And my download that I received a download a couple of years ago, which was, oh, shamanism, extraterrestrials, there's an intersection there. And that intersection is very specific. I mean, not only is it fascinating as far as ancient history and what's been going on since the beginning of time, but I actually feel that the shamans connected with the extraterrestrials have a key for all of humanity, for the timeline we are on right now, for healing this earth and healing what we're doing, so that we can actually open ourselves to open contact. So I do a lot of projects. I speak on stages all over the world. I've got this beautiful podcast, and I do shamanic healing classes. That's really my wheelhouse. But I feel like the big mission is this information I shared. And I know it's gearing up. I know that open contact is upon us. And so I really feel like I have been asked to be a mouthpiece for this. I didn't consciously ask for it. And I would, say to you, whether you want to laugh or not, but it really is like the extraterrestrials who are aware of me and my journey have been orchestrating some pretty magical things on my behalf. And so I'm just a heck yes. It's a very positive journey. It's a very humbling thing to be asked to talk about. And so an honor to be here with you.
And one thing I want to make very clear is, I am a comedian by trade. And one thing I have joked about paranormal stuff before on stage in my show, but I'm a firm believer. And nowadays, I think when people want to joke about this topic, I think it's kind of hacky. I'm like, really, actually, it's dead serious, and it's a very serious topic that, and sad, because the people who don't know, because I mean, there are a lot of people who they never look up, they never acknowledge really what's going around. And it's one of these things that, it's finally making enough, noise that people are starting to pay attention, but still these people don't live in the same world we do, as far as with our windows and our doors wide open, that we, know these things exist. So whenever I bring up the topic, it's funny, Debbie, because there's times I've brought it up to the normies, is what I call them. And, they do the step back and oh, come on. And I'm like, no, dude, I've been doing this podcast for a year. I've heard some stuff. And no, but seriously, I kind of direct them. I'm like, look, no, you can go check this out. Look at this. Look at this. This is evidence. This is things that's interesting. You can't deny this. I said, there's probably things that you believe that's total, make believe and BS, but what we got here, you can't, this isn't about Earl in the cornfield,
It's so true. And, actually, we're the normies now. Like you said,
yes.
More and more, we are the voices. People are waking up at incredible rates. I know. I mean, I wouldn't have a show like I do. You wouldn't have a show. I wouldn't be able to speak all over the world and have unbelievable amounts of audiences show up for this conversation, hungry to be part of a community that, like, finally, I have a place where I can talk about this. But we can call them muggles, right? Let's call them muggles. Yeah. And just out of compassion, and I really do have compassion, I was a muggle in that regard only. I was a muggle in that when it came to ET stuff, I was just like, really such an eye roller. And my like ascension, if you will, into this was immediate, abrupt, intense, unexpected. And I had zero resistance when it happened. I just, in the moment when things happened for me, I was like, whoa, this is truth. And then my next step, it wasn't, because I do see some people go into this, the struggle, the resistance. What will people think about me? And I'll just give you a different option, folks. If you're there, I went immediately into, I have to find out everything I can. Like I was at the buffet of ETs and UFOs to ingest.
With me, I did believe in, ghost spirits. Into that, I was more, and I think for some reason people are more willing to accept that than UFOs. Once upon a time, now that's changing, but I wasn't big on extraterrestrials or anything like that. And then a couple years during COVID, I had a podcast called The Abracadam, and I had Ryan Stacy, the founder of Tessa, here. Come on. And he kind of broke some things down for me on a way I had never looked at it before. And it made me kind of look at things a little different. I was like, wow, what's going on? And then I did a little my own research investigation. I was like, holy cow, there's something here. So, and I think also a lot of people, they don't want to believe in something that they're terrified of.
Of course.
And when you hear the stories of the alien abductions and stuff like that, that's one of the most terrifying things people could think about. And I think their way of dealing with that is to pretend like it's not real.
That's what happened to me. That's exactly what you're saying is what my path was. I think I had things happen when I was younger. I shut it down. It was too much for me. At some point, I started reading Whitley Strieber's book, and especially Communion. Now, of course, Whitley's been on my show many times, and he is a different human than when he wrote those books. Today, he's in this conscious, loving, caring relationship with these grays. But back then, the best he could do was experience terror and PTSD. Reading that impacted me. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't want to feel that. I don't want little anything coming in my, wherever.
Yeah, the movie, too. The movie is what got me, man.
And that's exactly because media has often portrayed, not always, there's maybe 3 or 4 we can count where they portrayed the connection with these benevolent advanced races as a beautiful experience and positive for both. But in general, they're always trying to eat. It's like, somebody once said, we think they're going to behave like we behave. How
exactly.
Can we eat them? Can we kill them? And that's not what they're about, because they would have done it a long time ago. But absolutely. And again, great compassion, no judgment on my part that, if you're in fear, it's because of that. And I want to add, because I've been traveling a lot, traveling and speaking, and I saw a movie on the plane literally 2 weeks ago called Jules, Jules, with Ben Kingsley. And it is, I don't want to give the story away. I highly recommend you go see it. It's a stellar cast, a beautiful little movie. And it has to do with an alien that lands and what ensues. And I thought, oh, fantastic. Finally, there's another media representation out there that portrays an alien, benevolent, advanced, as different than us, but quite beautiful in nature and developing relationship with humans and what happens. But highly recommended you check out that movie.
And that's called Jules.
Jules, Jules, with Ben Kingsley, and I won't remember the other actors, but you'll recognize them.
Gotcha. We'll definitely have to check that out. I will put that on my list. Jules. Let's do this real quick, Debbie. Now, first, let me look over here in the comments. We've got a crowd up here tonight, folks. Woo-hoo. I want to say, what's up, Lisa? How you doing, Lisa? Jillian, what's happening? Live light, as always. Glad to see you. David Martin, what's happening? And the $6 million man. Hey, that's my guy right there. Hey, thank you guys for joining. If you guys got any questions, feel free. We'll get them up here. Debbie will answer them the best at her ability. Debbie, let me ask you about shamanism. Okay. So you said you were always a spiritual person, right? So how did this happen?
Yeah, like that was also a very unexpected path, but it started all of this. I started to work with the consciousness of plants. I'm going to keep it very simple. I worked with the consciousness of plants. And when I work with the consciousness of plants, I started to have a lot of experiences. I started to have a lot of healing. I started seeing sacred geometry, very beautiful, very profound. And I started to be visited nights in a row, 4 nights in a row by the divine. And she was a very feminine, divine feminine energy, came in and said, Debbie, you are a healer, you're a shaman, and you're a priestess. And I had no context for what she was talking about. I said, I'm not a shaman. I know what it takes to be a shaman. Like, that's uncomfortable. Healer? No. I have friends who are healers. People who come on my show are healers. I don't think I have any skills. And priestess, I'll take it. But she wouldn't stop. She was very gentle, very persistent, and she showed up every night, same mantra. You're a shaman, you're a healer, you're a priestess. And along the way, she started showing me things behind the curtain about myself, about some of my gifts. She started showing me how to use my hands and my energy, my frequency to heal, and things were happening. And then by night 4, she insisted that I go up to a shaman. And I mean, we're talking about 30 years they've put in living in jungles, real deal shaman. And she said, now I want you to go up to a shaman and I want you to ask for a blessing as a shaman, meaning I was the shaman. And I argued for 20 minutes. I was very uncomfortable and humiliated. She would not back down. So I finally acquiesced and I said, okay, if that's what it takes. So I went and asked the shaman, and wow, they were so kind about it. I literally told them what's been going on. And they said, yeah, come back in 5 minutes and we will do it. I received a shaman's blessing. I was then told I was supposed to go up to the female shaman and ask for a blessing on my shaman's path. And I was not allowed to call her by her name. I was only allowed to call her sister as though I was one of her. And so it was a lot for me. I did it. And when I was out of country, when I came back to the USA, I started telling some friends like, wow, this really confusing experience has occurred. And my friend said, let's do some past life regressions. Now, remember what I said about past life regressions. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this thing works. You're going to tell me to look at my feet and I'm not going to see sandals or know where I am. But thank God this guy was super gifted, didn't do that. And bam, I saw myself as a Native American man, short, very powerful, dark skin, dark hair. I saw my whole life. Next week, we did another session, and I saw myself as a priestess, a leader of the Mayan people. I was living in a temple, and I was over 7 feet tall, very, very slender. And I spent what felt like a day with her, although it was about 2 hours. And I was amazed at who she was and what she was capable of. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And before I left, I wanted to ask her more about herself, like, how are you creating at this level? And I had a grand assumption, and she shook her head and she pointed up and she said, I am not from here. I am from another galaxy. And so I come back and I'm like, oh my God, there's an aspect of me. I know about past lives, that's for sure. But now this is taking it a way step further. I've had galactic past lives, and I just spent time with one of them, a concurrent lifetime of mine. And this is what burst open my path on the UFO, on the ET information. But what got me to shaman was I went on a path. Like, what does this mean for me? What does this mean? I sing. I thought maybe the shamanism was going to somehow come out of my voice and I'll sing at ceremonies. It wasn't clear. But I finally got to the point where I thought, let me go on a journey. Let me just find out information. I'm going to take shaman classes. I'm going to work with the best shamans in the world. And I did. I took 6-month certifications that were grueling, and I went for the info. But what happened is, because I'm constantly trading the shamanic healing practices, I started changing massively, healing massively, rewiring my whole system. When I came out, I have friends who see, like really see deeply, and they're like, you're not even the same human. This is amazing. I certainly felt abundantly different. And so that became my path. I then became a Munay Rites practitioner. And then I've worked with some of the greatest men and women teachers. Interestingly,
this is something, I mean, so this has been a major journey, then a major transformation, not just on learning, but it almost sounds like you physically too, as well.
100%.
Let's do this. We do got our first question here. Actually, we've got two questions, Chris, by the way. Chris is our tech guy. And I think the Native American guy that you described Chris Green, our production guy earlier. It sounded just like it. Anyways, we've got a question here from the $6 Million Man. It says, Debbie, how long do you see us traveling on this climax before we peak and everything will be revealed?
I assume, thank you, $6 Million Man. I assume what he's asking when he says trajectory and peak, more is revealed. I think what you're talking about, and please correct me, $6 Million Man, if you mean more revealed around extraterrestrials. Do you get that, Danny?
That's what I'm thinking he was going for, yes.
Yeah, cool. It's a great question. It's such a fair question, and it's so prevalent. Okay, for me, disclosure, really old word, right? We're way past disclosure at this point. The amount of UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrial experiences, people going, oh my God, I'm a hybrid. I know my galactic history. People are woke right now and are like, not just in our community, people have been like real estate agents and suddenly going, oh my God, and going from 0 to 100, knowing the truth. So look, this is on purpose. And I will tell you that I did a project last year. I invited the names you would know, but it's not important to reveal. Here's what's germane. I had this idea I told you about. I wanted to do a project. I filmed 6 different, very well-known channels out in the world. And I asked each of them, when is open contact going to happen? Not what's been happening all around history, but I mean where everybody on earth is going to know. And what happened is I was consistently getting the same exact answer across the board, that 2026, there's going to be an incident. There's a 90-something% probability that something unprecedented is going to happen on this planet. Everybody knows how fast time is going. That's soon. Second of all, we've got a timeline between 10 to 30 years. Guess who it depends on? Us. How we behave. So we all know there's a lot of mess in the world, but there's also a lot of good. And this is where the shamanism comes in. We have to invest in how we show up and what we do on this planet, how we behave individually and collectively, so we can alter this timeline, because they are waiting for us. They've been patiently waiting for us for tens of thousands of years for us to finally be in a place that we could be part of a galactic community. So that's my answer, is that something unprecedented 2026, 2027, and sometime between now and the next 30 years, depending on what timeline we all agree to, and we may all go on separate timelines, by the way. I know the one I'm choosing, but they will be coming. And if you're interested later, I can tell you who will be coming.
Absolutely. I want to hear that. Let's get this quick question here. David had this question, David Martin. He says, Debbie, do you have ET implants?
No.
All right. No implants, David. Let's see here. And $6 Million Man, do you follow, make sure I don't mess this up, Bashar? Is it Bashar?
Bashar. I'm very good. I'm friends with him. Daryl Anka. Yes, I'm aware. And he's been on my show 5 times. He's coming on again December, next couple of months. Yeah. Definitely amazing human being, amazing work. He's been channeling for 40 years. Yes, I'm very aware. And he's one of the people, frankly.
We need to get him on here, Chris. Come on. Let's get him on here.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
We've got another question this is our questionnaire Hall of Famer. Every episode she pops up with some of the best questions ever. So let's give a quick little round of applause for Liv Light. Here we go. Yes, here we go. Liv with her question. After the commercial break, which she knows that's coming. She's a psychic channeling in here. Can you share how we can thrive as energetic consciousness beings within the limited 3D environment? Boy, her questions are good.
That's a great, thank you for the question. And yes, I can.
So that is super cool. Now, I have my own little theory. I do, because I follow this, and we talk about, like there's going to be a major event in 2026. So many things have already popped in my head when you said that right off the bat. I think I'm afraid with all the bad stuff that's happening in the world right now, and we know there's a lot of bad stuff. Realistically, I mean, World War III is a very, very real possibility. Do you think that maybe the higher ups, whatever you want to call them, may be on the verge to maybe saying, hey, look, we have made contact. They are here. Anything maybe out of fear of World War III, maybe hoping it would de-escalate some of the things by announcing some news?
When you say higher ups, do you mean the government?
I don't know if it's the government. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think, I kind of believe that there's something higher than the government. The government's the puppy, are the puppet strings.
I will tell you quickly, Nick Pope, I don't know if you know who he is. He's been on my show, right? He's beautiful. And he used to work for the UK government. And this is what he did behind the scenes. He's one of those secret molder guys. And so now, of course, he's independent. He doesn't work for them. But he has told me, Debbie, there's going to be more and more whistleblowers coming forward. Why? Because the public is supporting them. They're not afraid anymore. The government can't hurt their families, kill their career, take away their money, and call them awful names like they're crazy and etc. and unstable, because none of it's been true. So that's why the David Grosches and the Lou Elizondo writing books, like, it's wonderful, and it's not going to stop, and there will be others. And I think it's really important to remember that all of us here in this community who know the truth, that we don't need the higher ups anymore. It's going to go way beyond them. The extraterrestrials have been so familiar with our government. Our government, is, as we all know, has always known what's going on, but we no longer need to wait for them, because we know the truth, and the truth will start to seep out in very new ways that doesn't involve them.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's happening now. So you're right. It is happening. We've got a minute and a half before commercial. So let's get Jillian Leonard. She's one of our very own Tessa members. Thank you, Jillian, with a great question. Do you have any opinions, perspectives on the Anunnaki, if I said that right?
Oh, I love that question. But what a huge thing. 1 minute?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes, I do. And they were a big part of why we are as we are regarding DNA. They genetically modified our DNA 450,000 years ago when they had a problem on their planet. And in order to save the catastrophe, they found Earth because they needed gold. They needed to mine gold for the atmosphere and bring it back. They went to Africa. They started mining. They said, oh, this is a lot of work. What can we do? Oh, look at these human beings. We really weren't hominids at the point, but they said, if they were labor, we could get them to help us with mining. So they genetically modified our DNA, but that started our whole foray into other later modifications from 5 seed races.
Wow, that was amazing. First of all, I wish Debbie could teach everybody how to do what she just did. Did you guys hear that? She covered that question with a ton of info, and it's left me plenty of time to kill before a commercial break. This is amazing. Okay, you're my favorite already, Debbie. You are. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to come back. We're going to touch more on this question. We got plenty to talk about. We'll be right back with Debbi Dachinger.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, welcome back, guys. And if you're just not tuning in, we've been talking with Debbi Dachinger. Debbi, now, before we got out here, we had a fantastic question. You broke it down in super detailed, and I believe you set a record here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. But that's a very interesting topic. So kind of you explained the origins of us, sort of there. If you don't care, just for my sake, I would like to learn a little more about that.
Okay. It is my pleasure, because this is so important, and it's going to actually at the end make a very interesting circle back to the initial things we've been talking about. It is going to circle back to the ETs and our connection, and another reason why it is so important and why it's not an us and a them. So yeah, experts have said that Earth has been used as a genetic laboratory by extraterrestrials, which has influenced human DNA. Back in history, Francis Crick, who discovered DNA, he won a Nobel Prize for his work. He believed that human DNA is far too complex to have evolved naturally on Earth, and he always pointed to extraterrestrial interference. I already said at the very beginning, 450,000 years ago, the Anunnaki came, they needed labor. So they were not going to coerce us. They were just going to go in and change our DNA. Let me just say that's a no-no, because we are a planet and a population of free will. They took away our free will by doing that. Just so you know, they didn't get away with it in the sense they were actually recalled. And the other Anunnakis were not pleased that they had done that, nor were the other benevolent races who were watching what was happening. Because 450,000 years ago, when they made these genetic changes to us, people stopped living as long. They weren't able to have babies. They died in childbirth. They started having physical issues, and it was a mess. So now you have that history. Let's go back to Francis Crick, who won a Nobel Prize for his work. He created a couple of really important theories upon his work. One of them is called directed panspermia. That says that an advanced civilization deliberately spread life throughout the universe, including Earth, and that DNA and its elements travel across space. So they're influencing genetic development at not just here on Earth, but at different planets. We know in the ancient Sumerian texts, they talk about the Anunnaki, this advanced race of extraterrestrials. They are often described as gods because people didn't know how to perceive these incredibly tall beings who came, who were advanced and had all sorts of gifts. So they, descended from the sky. That was their best way of saying they came in spacecraft and landed here. And right now I'm going to shift into the DNA portion. Human DNA consists of 3.2 billion base pairs. I want to give you a pre-caveat. I am not a scientist. I'm an aggregator. So what I do is I get in there and I find out the information, I put it together. So I can't go deep into the science, but I can go deep enough in a layman's way to explain it to you. So all of us, we have 3.2 billion base pairs, but only 1.5% of it codes for protein. So what's the other percentage? Like, what is in there? And we know for a long time that scientists have said, oh, we don't know. We're going to call that junk DNA because we don't understand its functions. But in years since, as scientists keep digging, and maybe many of you have read about this, these researchers have found that this junk DNA within us, which actually makes up the majority of who we are, is actually an ancient extraterrestrial code. So when you group DNA as a code, it becomes a common blueprint for life across the cosmos. The SETI project, this is the project that explores civilizations. They say that DNA or genetic sequences are a channel for communication, meaning our genetic code contains embedded messages from other civilizations. I could say so much more, but I want to get to this really important point. I have two important points. Do we have a moment?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So if you guys, thank you for sticking with me. So there's also been another project called the Human Genome Project. And Dr. Samuel Chung, one of the scientists, he was blown away by what he found. And he was also finding the combination. Oh, there looks like there's a connection here. Human DNA, extraterrestrial DNA. These genetics are overlapping. And then there were other scientists from the Human Genome Project, specifically Makukov and Sherbak, and they put out a paper called the WOW signal of the terrestrial genetic code, because they discovered that human DNA has a set of mathematical patterns, symbolic language, and it reveals an intelligent signature. What does that mean? It means that humans were created as a hybrid species, and that life on Earth is part of a cosmic experiment conducted by advanced extraterrestrial beings. When I was interviewing Wendy Kennedy, who channels the 9 Ps, the Pleiadian Collective, and she's magnificent. You can go to my show if you like and listen to that interview. I asked her the question, so what are we made of? Now, I want to be really clear, because I know from having spoken to many people about this, we're an amalgam. We have so many different types in us, right? However, there were 5 seed races that, when they realized what the Anunnaki had done to us, came to our rescue so that we keep living. We could procreate again. We wouldn't have all these physical issues. So they massively upgraded us. Who are these 5, thank you, beings who came and did that for this grand experiment called Planet Earth. My DNA was altered. And those 5 seed races who donated their genetic material to us to create hominids, to create modern man, are the reptilian, the bird, the avian people, the felines, and the high-level dimensioning beings of light from Lyra. That's what we're comprised of. So that's super important information. Why? Because when we talk about extraterrestrials, we are the extraterrestrials. When people say hybrids, we are the hybrids. And what does that mean? Like Yaels, if you know those beings, Yaels are a hybrid of human and other extraterrestrial. They're our family. These are our cousins. Bashar, who somebody brought up, the Sasani, they're Zeta Reticuli and human. This is why they love us, because we're not just a them on Earth. We are actually cousins, brothers, parents of some of these beings. We are relations by genetics.
Oh, wow. See, I've heard of some of those, but some of this is brand new to me. So definitely interesting. We've got another question popped up here by Liv. After the commercial break, can you share how we thrive energetic consciousness beings within this limited 3D environment? Was that one that we had? That's the one she answered right before the break. So yeah, but actually we do got another question over here. Hold on. Where was it at? I think the $60 million man actually had a question here, Chris. Let's get this one up. He said he's doing his impression of Columbo over here. I'll read it up. There we go. We got one more thing. Okay. There. I'm glad Debbie got that one. But
you need a cigar.
One more thing. Do you sense anything coming around November 13th?
Oh, that's so interesting. You have good listeners. Thank you guys for these questions.
Yes, we do. We got great listeners.
You know, I'm going to do a show on this. I literally have been talking to a friend of mine who channels in Amsterdam. Probably some of you know who she is. I'm not going to mention her name. But anyway, we're doing a pre-election and a post-election show. And God knows how I'm going to add that into my calendar. But I'm doing it because I'm an energy person and my read was a hell yeah. What I know is that there's people out there like crazy, going to all these astrology channels, human design channels, channeling channels. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's not a total consensus with everybody in our tribe who's very gifted. I'm hearing a modicum of the same thing and some different things. So I want to just acknowledge, and I think we can feel, all of us. Like when you say November 13th, I don't know why you use that date, but I will tell you in that general vicinity, what I am getting is that because of the election, we've all heard there may be chaos. And because of the election, we will be very polarized one way or the other, whichever way you vote or don't vote or believe or don't believe. People will not be happy with the outcome. That said, it's really important to know that we create our reality. It's really important to remind ourselves of how powerful we are and what we believe, how we act, how we treat others, how we treat ourselves. All of it matters. So how you show up will be important to what happens, because I can make a prediction just like a psychic, but the truth is that is in this moment, this pinpoint. But in the next moment, all of us, maybe by virtue of being on this amazing show, are all going to make another choice and go, oh, we're going to glide right over November 13th and have a beautiful rest of the year into the new year. So that's my answer. Possibilities, but I'm going to do everything I can as a healer and as a person out there in the public to bring on people to help make this a different shift.
And if they screw up Thanksgiving, I'm going to be so mad.
You love it?
Let's take it easy November 13th. Don't do anything crazy. We've got another question from Live Light. Is there a message from your interdimensional friends about the future of humanity? how can we raise the awareness and vibration of ourselves and the planet, if I could speak?
So thank you for that question. And here's what's great. I'm going to couple this with the question your other gal had about it. They're both questions speak to the same, the one we didn't address yet. They're both talking about the kind of change we can make and the kind of change we can be. How can we alter everything? And I am all about it. So let me give you a little bit of interesting shamanic history. In 1996, shamans from the Star Nations across America came together, from the plains, from the eastern, from the southwest tribes. They met at the Sioux Reservation in South Dakota, and they brought together all of their people, but they also invited these amazing scholars. Amongst them was Harvard professor John Mack. Many of you may know him in this UFO extraterrestrial space, and the CSETI assistant director, and there were many other notable people. So the native elders came together because they had two messages. The first message they said was, we have been in contact with extraterrestrials since the beginning of time. We also come from the extraterrestrials, and we want you to know that's how we know how to do what we do. This is a big part of who we are, our ongoing relations with various extraterrestrial races and beings. The other thing they said is, we have to impart a warning to you about what's going to take place on Earth, and we hope you will listen to us. Now, remember, this was 1996. This is almost 20 years ago. And they basically said, if things don't change, this world is going to have a disaster because they're facing monetary, environmental, and spiritual collapse. Did we listen? Here we are. So I do think personally, on a spiritual level, we have evolved. Not everybody, obviously, by any means, but there's a lot of us who have. So I have hope there. Financially, we know we're in trouble, and environmentally, oh my. I just saw pictures of the Amazon recently, and it's very heartbreaking. But I'm all about hope, and I'm all about what can we do and be different. Shamanism absolutely holds a key in this regard, and specifically because shamans from the beginning of time have been in concert, in harmony with nature. When they say we are all one, they don't just mean, oh, you and I, peace out. They mean, no, me and that tree has consciousness, has wisdom, this river, these apus, these mountains, that everything they do, including the extraterrestrials, we are truly all one. Mother Earth, we treat her with respect. We don't ever take without giving back first. I mean, I could stop there, and there's a million lessons for all of us in that.
Oh, I think great advice there. We do have another question, though, for you. We got a lot of questions for you tonight, Debbie.
Great.
David Martin. David says, sometimes you hear some types of ETs see people as food. Have you heard that theory? Have you heard about that? Anything like that? Are there any bad ones out there wanting to?
Yes. To keep it succinct, yes. But so David, good question. You know, like everything, good lawyers, bad lawyers, good ETs, bad ETs, right?
Good lawyers. What are you talking about?
No, you got to be fair here. Good singers, bad singers, right? In everything and every being. And even us, we're complicated. We probably, each of us have beautiful qualities, and some some people would pass on qualities. So to be fair, yes, there are definitely some very interesting beings out there. We are protected, and I think that's so important to remember. There are literally spacecraft above the Earth. That is their job, to watch after us. They're invested in us. Some of them because, yes, we're genetically family, and some of us because they're very clear that if anything happens to us, it happens to them. That is why when we so brilliantly have thought, I know, setting off a nuclear warhead is the greatest thing I could do right now, literally, and they get an order from their government and someone from the military is their finger about to press it, all of a sudden a spacecraft appears and it becomes dismantled. And by the way, that is the only time they have ever or will ever get involved, because they're clear, a nuclear war here, the repercussions go way out into multiple galaxies, and they're not willing to go down that road. So we have we have beings looking after us. So we are very protected. I think that's important. And then the other thing I want to say, I really think I go back to this metaphysical thing is like what you put out, you're going to get. And I've talked to some kind of highfalutin people about this and said, I've never had a bad experience. I've only had the most beautiful experiences with extraterrestrials, with seeing spacecraft, with all my connections there. And I can't say anything bad. I have enormous gratitude. So maybe it's the space I come from, and my understanding of this, but I would say keep that, like where your attention goes, your experience flows. Keep your attention on all the good and the great beings out there who are rooting for us.
I'm a believer in that with, almost everything, every aspect of life, and it's a good idea to where no matter what you're dealing with, you're going through, is to believe that everything's going to be fine. And worst case scenario, that it's not. Okay, well then, but don't, and you'll deal with it whenever it's not. You know what I mean? So I think that's great advice, a great way to live and to look at everything. Now we are getting close. We're getting close to the end of the show here. One thing, and I know you touched on this just a hair at the beginning there, but I do want to, your personal UFO experience, do you have something that you could share really quick here with us?
How quick?
Well, let's see. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left.
All right. Yeah, I can do it quickly. And I'll just sort of breeze through some of the experiences. As soon as I got open to this, they started presenting themselves to me.
That's how it works. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I found that, and I understand over and over again from extraterrestrial beings that they look for an open heart. That's kind of all you need to do. Have a good open heart. They're not looking for anything monumental other than that. And as soon as I did, for instance, I think I sent you guys some pictures of this, but one of the first experiences, I was working out in sacred land in Arizona. We were doing contact work. It was pitch black. And I wanted to use my cell phone just to take pictures without any flash to see, if I could capture the stars and things. I was just trying to be creative, but I thought my finger kept getting in the lens. And then I realized as I kept taking pictures and the same object showed, there was something, it was so massive. It engulfed the entire tree. It was white, creamy, had pastels in it. It was not an orb. I want to be clear because there were other orbs. But people have said, no, we identify that's a kind of a spacecraft. Again, I went out the other way to shoot out into the total desert and I caught a spacecraft. After that, I was in Joshua Tree doing contact work. Wah, wah, nothing happened. Driving home on the freeway, bam, spacecraft right in front of our truck. 4 of us saw it, freaked out, super excited. No one else on the freeway saw it. I have now twice driving from San Diego to LA, had spacecraft come in my way. They seem to like freeways. It happened to Bashar too. It happened to Daryl too. And gosh, so many. I do a lot of work with
I've got some, I have a similar experience, and it's weird when you see it plain as day, it's right there, and other people don't see it. You know what I mean? I mean, the other drivers, people around you, very similar experience with that. But well, I tell you what, Debbie, I first of all, Jules' movie, Yes, Live Light, it looks like it's available on Tubi. So all you guys, if you guys got Tubi, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of good stuff on Tubi. Definitely check out the movie Jules. And where can my listeners go listen to your amazing podcast and learn more about you?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. YouTube, my name, Debbi Dachinger, but you do have to spell it right. It's Debbi, no E, Debbi. And the last name's Austrian, so it's Dachinger. And then you can use that on all social media, same, Debbi Dachinger. And then my website is debbidachinger.com. That
is awesome. And I can't wait to check out this podcast. And the other thing, Debbie, I got to have you back on. It wasn't enough time to cover everything that I would like to ask you, but definitely, you have been a fantastic guest. I can tell that you're a professional speaker because I was like, come on, a minute and a half. And bam, she nailed it, folks. Did she not? I was impressed. I'm super impressed. I love the way she nailed that. But Debbie, yeah, we got to get you back on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. And I would love to cover more stuff because, like I said, there's plenty more to talk about with you. And I can't wait to check out the podcast and watch out this movie, Jules.
Thank you so much. Stay in touch, everybody. It's really been a pleasure getting to know you and your audience. And honestly, thank you for the great work you do, Danny and Chris, because I want you to know the extraterrestrials consider all of us first wave contact. They couldn't get their message out without us to the masses that we're doing. So thank you for your good work. We are the step before the open, undeniable contact.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you for coming on the show. All right, guys. First of all, I want to give you guys a big shout out. $6 Million Man, Liv, David, Lisa, Jillian, David Martin. Thank you guys so much for your awesome questions, man. Like I said, the show ain't nothing without you guys watching and bringing in those awesome questions. Thank you guys so much. If you guys didn't catch the first part of it, so if you did or not, either way, I'm going to make sure you guys head over to the experiencersupport.org. Check out Ryan has posted a real cool event coming up here. Let me find it. It is, let's see. There we go. It is the Extraterrestrial Diplomacy and First Contact Conference of 2024. And he's got some really cool guest speakers. So I want you to head over to experiencersupport.org. Check that out, and you can get the information there. Also, if you guys have not done so, let your friends know. Spread the word. Tell them about the show. We stream live at 7 p.m. every Tuesday night. We have amazing guests. Sometimes it's just me and Chris Green, okay? And that's a fun show, too. So some shows are like that. But tell them to subscribe, like the podcast, check us out. We're on every platform, wherever you listen to podcasts. And like always, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Guys, it's been a pleasure. We will be back next week. Actually, we'll be back next week with one of the viewers, I believe, one of very own Tessa member, Miss Jillian. Yes, that's going to be a fun episode. So you guys want to tune in next Tuesday, get your questions ready for her. And like always, folks, keep the paranormal normal. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.